Hello and welcome back to the Everything Catholic Show. In today's episode, we'll be talking about how the Catholic Church authenticates relics. So, if I'm being completely honest, right, some people think it's totally weird that we keep the bones or the hair or the pieces of clothing from the saints who died how many centuries ago. And when you explain it to a Catholic friend or to a non-Catholic friend or to someone who is atheist, they give you that why do you keep stuff in a box? Why do you keep human parts in a box kind of look, you know? But here's the thing. I'm fascinated by them, not because I like old bones or I like the skins of saints, but because I love the truth. Nowadays, we're in a world of where everything is deep faked, or there's so much AI, and there's so many artists who can just make things look real. But if you go over, we in the Catholic Church, we have the proof that these saints existed. That's why we keep their relics. Today, in today's episode, in today's video, I want to take you behind the curtain of the Vatican CSI to show you how we authenticate the sacred relics. Alright, so let's just say, right? Imagine you bought a jersey that, let's say, belonged to Michael Jordan. But there's no tag or certificate to show that someone sold it to you, that he did wear it. The church feels the same way. That is why we call it provenance. Basically, the church keeps receipts for a relic to be official. It needs an authenticate to look over it. This fancy piece of paper with a red wax seal that tells the story about where this came from. One. And one thing which is really fascinating is, like, if let's say I was in the Vatican and I was a priest or a bishop or archbishop, if I were to drop this letter with the red seal on it and the seal were to crack, I would be in a lot of trouble because I would have to call experts in to re-verify it because the church knows that human beings are, entrepreneurs and we like to sell fakes of things to make money. I mean, money is the base of everything. So this paperwork and this seal is our way of protecting you from getting scammed, basically. But if we go over to like the really, really old stuff, like let's say 300 years ago, let's say the paperwork was like burned or something. This is where it actually gets really interesting because the church brings in scientists, DNA experts, archaeologists. And here's the human part. Sometimes science tells us something we don't want to hear. There have been times where a parish thought they had the bone of a famous martyr, but carbon dating shows the bone was from the 1800s. And you know what the church does? She pulls it. She says, sorry, this isn't it. I respect that so much. I mean, the church isn't afraid of science. The church respects science. It isn't afraid of the lab. We don't need fake miracles. If it's not real, we do not want it. We're looking for 100% pure historical truth. And if you look at the Catholic Church, right, through all these years, if you look over at the Vatican Library or the Vatican files, you can find all these stories of all these different things. And one cool thing about the Catholic Church is that it keeps all this since the beginning. All the successes of the apostles, how from Peter now we have Pope Leo the 14th, then it's very interesting. The Catholic Church doesn't want to miss out on things that how do you say it? We want to authenticate everything to show that we have proof. And yeah, so that's basically it. So if you hear the word relic, I mean, not many people know what it means. There are three different classes of relics: first class, second class, and third class. So when you talk about a first class relic, It's a part of the person. Like, let's just say their skin or their hair. But if you go over to second class relics, those are something that is something they use in their daily life. Like, let's say Saint Carlo Atticus. He used to play games a lot. If I'm not mistaken, he was one of those he was the first millennial saint. So things that he used in his daily life are now his second class relics. But if you go over to something like his skin or his hair, that will be considered a first class relic. Now, if you talk about a third class relic, it is a piece of cloth or something that touched the first class relic. So if I were to take my rosary and I were to tap it to a first class Saint Benedict relic, that would make my rosary a third class relic. So now, if you're looking for relics on online shops, you're not gonna find them because if you look at canon law, it strictly says you cannot sell a sacred relic. If like someone's selling a verified bone of Saint Peter or something for like let's say $1,000, they are either selling a fake or they are doing something which is against canon law. And one thing is, it feels very wrong, because you're putting a price tag on someone that gave their life to Christ. It just doesn't feel right. One. So now the question is, why does the Catholic Church bother on spending so much money, thousands of dollars, on tests for a fragment of bone? It's because these saints bled, died, some of them were crucified just for God. So, like for when I see a verified relic of, let's say, Saint Francis of Assisi, it reminds me that they weren't cartoons or they weren't some random people. It reminds me that they really walked with God, who gave up their life for God, people who were martyred. So that is more or less it for today's video. Next time you see an old church or if you see a relic, please remember that scientists went through so much time to find out that these relics were real. Thank you for watching the Everything Catholic show. Please like, subscribe, or comment down below. If I did get anything wrong, please tell me down below. And this is just my opinion and somewhat the truth on what the Catholic Church, how we verify relics. Bye.